everybody, my name is Marissa, and today I'm going to be going over my activist journey with the insect crisis. My passion for creepy crawlies got started at a really young age. I'd spend every summer in the backyard and in the garden collecting species and writing things down in my field notebook. My family started calling me their junior entomologist because any time that there was a mystery species, they'd bring it to me and I'd tell them everything about it. Today we're looking at some of my old journals. This is one of my favorite pages. You can see. Unfortunately, it hit me kind of hard to realize that most people didn't feel the same way that I did about bugs. Even some of my role models and close family members would flip out the second a spider entered the room. And it kind of took me by surprise, but then I realized it was a lot deeper issue, and our education system doesn't really emphasize insects, and most of our environmental and conservation programs don't focus on them either. When we think about conservation of species, most of the time I think we learn about save the tigers, save the whales. We don't really talk about the smaller species. Even now, insect conservation is primarily led by the bumblebee or the honeybee, when there's thousands of species of bees that we should be learning about, and they're all important to save. And I think that equally, we should start rethinking about conservation as a means to protect the holistic ecosystem.
She doesn't have a dot, so that's how you know that it's a female. And they usually have dots in their lower wing if they are a male. Why am I saying usually? Okay, I'm gonna go let him go. Are we doing this now? Yeah. Am I supposed to still record? Why is it still staying on? Why can't you just fly away? Because he's nervous. He's never felt wind before. Oh. All she knows is her instincts that she wants to fly. I feel like one of those documentary crews.
As my passion for entomology grew, I also realized that there was a serious crisis facing most insect species today. And I think that not a lot of people are aware of that, but my passion for insects can help bring that into light. One of my assignments earlier this semester was to pitch a podcast idea, which kind of developed into a passion project for me, actually. So today we're going to get a little bit behind the scenes of This Bugs Me. Hi friends, and welcome back to the latest edition of This Bugs Me. I'm Marissa, and today we're exploring the creepy crawlies that make our world so special. That's all we have time for today. Thanks for joining, and tune in next time for a deep dive on pollinators in Lincoln. I've done quite a few projects over the years to try to generate some awareness to the insect crisis, or just to my passion for insects in general. But I think that I didn't really think about myself as an activist until I started taking this class, Sociology of Activism, at my college. And then it really occurred to me how much that word appealed to me, because to be an activist for me is about generating awareness and creating change. And I really do want to generate some positive awareness about entomology, about the insect crisis, and what we can do as people to help prevent the collapse of our ecosystem.
Would you say that I'm pretty passionate about insects?
Oh yeah, definitely.
And do you think that I've changed your worldview at all about insects?
I would say that. Just hearing you talk about why you care about them and why they're so important. I hadn't really thought about that kind of stuff before.
One of the earliest projects I remember having for this class was leaf letting, and I was quite comfortable with the idea of writing a letter to my senator or sending in a letter to the newspaper. I had done those kind of activism things that were kind of off of the spotlight, but this really put me out of my comfort zone because I've never done something so publicly and gotten reactions in real time, so that was a little bit daunting for me at first. I think it's fair to admit that there was this component to my topic that made me feel quite isolated, and that was not a lot of people knew about it. It was nice that I could generate awareness to it, but I did feel very alone in my knowledge. So I had the opportunity to reach out to a couple experts, and that was really quite reassuring because I got that opportunity to connect with people who had similar interests and felt the way that I did about insects and tackling the insect crisis head on.
One of the biggest problems with conservation is that it's this thing that's over there that like scientists and hippies and biologists and enviros do, and it has to be mainstreamed so that companies are thinking about sustainability and conservation, and like whatever the business is, like fashion, economics, the medical industry, whatever, they need to be thinking about conservation and sustainability and not leaving it over there as something that scientists do. And the insect crisis, the thing that to me is scariest about it is that common species are declining. So to me, that's like a huge wake-up call that if these super common, widely distributed insects are in trouble, we have to do a better job taking care of the environment. And also, I think that most people take bugs for granted. Like, they play such a big role in the ecosystem. We don't think about them, and we assume that there's always going to be bugs everywhere.
The culmination of my activism this semester was in this short little PSA video, and I'm going to go ahead and link that in the description below if you want to learn a little bit more about the insect crisis. I think I just want to end this video with a call to action for my viewers. We all have the power within us to reevaluate our own prejudices and make new decisions based on the information that we receive. And I think that applies to the insect crisis too. And maybe you were the person who was always scared of spiders before or got nervous the second a wasp entered the room. But knowing how valuable they are to our ecosystem, I think this is a time to reevaluate that and realize that it's about more than your personal discomfort, because our planet truly can't survive without them.
One of the other questions that I had that I was really curious what this would look like for you is, like, can you describe a world without insects? Like, what kind of effects would that have, and what would our lives look like?
We'd be dead. Like, there's, what is it, 5.5 million species of insects on the planet. There's 2.5 million of everything else, like plants, mammals, birds, everything else, and there's 5.5 million species of insects. So they're like doing the nutrient cycle, the soil cycle. They're integral to the food web, to just everything. I really think the whole planet would collapse without them.
That's a bleak future,
Yeah.
but I guess it's good that we talk about it.
Yeah.
Did you have anything else that you want to share about, like, insect conservation in general, or like the insect crisis and how it's going to impact us as people?
Just that a lot, like the media especially loves a mystery. They love we don't know what's happening to the frogs. We don't know what's happening to the freshwater mussels. We don't know what's happening to the insects. Yes, we do. We know that it's pesticides. We know that it's habitat loss. We know that it's climate change. Like, we don't need the specific pesticide and the mechanism to know that if we start saving habitats, planting native plants, reducing pesticide use, it's going to help the insects, and that's going to help the birds and everything else. So I know that it's a more compelling narrative to be like, we don't know what's happening or there's nothing we can do, but we know enough to do something.
So for all my viewers out there who are perhaps a little bit uncomfortable with creepy crawlies, I'm asking you to recognize that a world without insects would have detrimental effects for every single living being on this planet. With that said, thanks for watching. Here's some resources over here about what you can do to prevent the insect crisis.